When installing a subpanel in a dwelling unit, correctly sizing the overcurrent protection for the subpanel feed is crucial for safety and code compliance. National Electrical Code Section 215.2A3 addresses this specifically, outlining the requirements based on the main breaker panel's amperage and the conductor size used for the feed. Firstly, let's consider a scenario with a 200 amp main breaker panel. If you're feeding a subpanel with number 2 aluminum conductors, the maximum overcurrent protection allowed for the subpanel feed is 90 amps. This is because the code stipulates that the subpanel feed cannot be protected by a breaker exceeding 45% of the main breaker's rating. In this instance, 45% of 200 amps is 90 amps, hence the limit. Secondly, let's examine a 100 amp main breaker panel scenario. If the main breaker panel is supplied by number 2 copper conductors and protected by a 100 amp breaker, a subpanel feed using number 2 aluminum can be protected by a 100 amp breaker as well. This is where exception number 2 of NEC section 215.2A3 comes into play. This exception allows for the subpanel feed breaker to match the main breaker size under specific conditions. This exception applies when the main panel is fed by number 2 copper and protected by a 100 amp breaker. The rationale behind these rules is to ensure that the branch circuit protection does not exceed the ampacity of the conductors. Ampacity refers to the maximum current, in amps, that a conductor can carry continuously under the conditions of use without exceeding its temperature rating. While limiting the size of the breaker on a subpanel feed, we prevent the possibility of overloading the number 2 aluminum conductors used for the feed. Overloading occurs when a conductor carries more current than its rated ampacity, leading to excessive heat buildup, which can damage the insulation and potentially cause a fire. When determining the appropriate breaker size, it is essential to consult the ampacity tables found in the National Electrical Code. Table 310.15b16, formerly Table 310.16, is a key reference for determining the allowable ampacities of insulated conductors rated up to 600 volts. The ampacity values in this table are based on specific conditions, including the conductor's insulation type, the ambient temperature, and the number of current-carrying conductors in a raceway or cable. For number 2 aluminum conductors with the typical insulation type like THHN, THWN, or XHHW, the ampacity is typically around 90 amps. However, this value can vary based on the specific conditions mentioned earlier. Therefore, it's imperative to consult the appropriate table in the National Electrical Code and make any necessary adjustments based on the actual installation conditions. When selecting a breaker, it is also important to consider the equipment connected to the subpanel. The breaker should be sized to protect the wiring and equipment from overloads and short circuits. The breaker should be rated to interrupt the available fault current at the subpole location. Available fault current refers to the maximum current that could flow in the event of a short circuit. This value depends on the utility's transformer size, the impedance of the service conductors, and the impedance of the branch circuit wiring. An electrician will need to calculate the available fault current and select a breaker with an interrupting rating equal to or greater than this value. In addition to ampacity and fault current considerations, voltage drop must also be taken into account. Voltage drop is the decrease in voltage that occurs along a conductor due to its resistance. Excessive voltage drop can cause lights to dim, motors to run sluggishly, and electronic equipment to malfunction. To minimize voltage drop, it is important to select conductors that are large enough for the length of the circuit and the amount of current being carried. The National Electrical Code provides guidelines for calculating voltage drop and recommends limiting voltage drop to no more than 3% for branch circuits and 5% for feeders. In calculating the voltage drop for a circuit, several factors must be considered. These include the length of the conductor, the current flowing through the conductor's resistance per unit length, and the conductor's temperature. The formula for calculating voltage drop is typically expressed as voltage drop equals 2 times the length of the conductor times the current times the resistance per unit length. The resistance per unit length of the conductor can be found in the National Electrical Code tables or from conductor manufacturers. It is essential to use the correct resistance value for the conductor material, size, and temperature. Furthermore, when calculating voltage drop, the anticipated load on the circuit must be considered. The load is the amount of current that the electrical devices connected to the circuit will draw. This load must be accurately estimated to determine the appropriate conductor size. In addition to calculating voltage drop, it is crucial to consider the ambient temperature in which the conductors will be installed. The ambient temperature can affect the conductor's resistance and therefore the voltage drop. The National Electrical Code provides correction factors for conductor ampacity based on ambient temperature, which can be used to adjust the conductor's resistance value. Understanding and applying these calculations will help you determine the appropriate conductor size for your electrical circuits, ensuring that voltage drop is within acceptable limits. Remember that these rules primarily apply to dwelling units. For other occupancies, such as commercial or industrial buildings, different requirements may apply. It is always advisable to consult the specific code requirements for the occupancy in question to ensure compliance. To reiterate, for a 200 amp main breaker panel, using number 2 aluminum conductors for the subpanel feed requires a maximum overcurrent protection of 90 amps. For a 100 amp main breaker panel supplied by number 2 copper and protected by a 100 amp breaker, subpanel feed using number 2 aluminum can also be protected by a 100 amp breaker. These guidelines from NEC Section 215.2 ASRI help ensure safe and compliant electrical installations in dwelling units. When working with electrical systems, safety should always be the top priority. Electricity can be dangerous, and it's essential to take precautions to protect yourself from electric shock and other hazards. Firstly, always to energize the circuit before working on it. This means turning off the breaker that supplies power to the circuit. To be absolutely sure that the circuit is de-energized, use a voltage tester to verify that there is no voltage present. Secondly, wear appropriate personal protective equipment or PPE, such as safety glasses and insulated gloves. Safety glasses protect your eyes from debris, and insulated gloves protect your hands from electric shock. Thirdly, use insulated tools. Insulated tools are designed to prevent electric shock by providing a barrier between you and the electrical current. Fourthly, never work alone. Having someone else present can be helpful in case of an emergency. They can call for help if you are injured or provide assistance if you need it. Fifthly, be aware of your surroundings. Make sure that you have enough light to see what you are doing and that there are no tripping hazards in the area. Sixthly, follow all applicable electrical codes and regulations. These codes are designed to ensure that electrical systems are installed and maintained safely. Seventhly, if you are not comfortable working on electrical systems, hire a qualified electrician. Electricians have the training and experience necessary to work safely with electricity. When selecting an electrician, it is important to verify their qualifications and experience. Check their licensing and insurance to ensure that they are properly credentialed. Ask for references from previous clients to gauge their reputation and quality of work. A qualified electrician will be knowledgeable about the latest electrical codes and regulations and will be able to perform the work safely and efficiently. They will also be able to troubleshoot electrical problems and provide solutions that meet your needs and budget. In addition to hiring a qualified electrician, it is also important to obtain the necessary permits for any electrical work that you are planning to do. Permits are required by local building codes to ensure that the work is inspected and meets safety standards. The permit application process typically involves submitting plans and specifications for the work to be performed and paying a fee. Once the permit is approved, the work can begin. After the work is completed, an inspector will visit the site to verify that it meets code requirements. If the work passes inspection, the permit will be closed out. Obtaining the necessary permits is essential for ensuring that your electrical work is safe and compliant with local regulations. It also protects you from liability in case of accidents or injuries. Furthermore, understanding grounding and bonding is crucial for electrical safety. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, tripping the breaker and preventing electric shock. Bonding connects all metal parts of the electrical system together to create a low-impedance path for fault current. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for ensuring that the electrical system is safe and reliable. The National Electrical Code specifies the requirements for grounding and bonding, including the size and type of grounding conductors, the methods for connecting grounding electrodes, and the bonding of metal enclosures and equipment. These requirements must be followed carefully to ensure that the electrical system is properly grounded and bonded. When installing or modifying an electrical system, it is also important to consider surge protection. Surges are sudden increases in voltage that can damage electronic equipment. They can be caused by lightning strikes, power outages, or other disturbances on the power grid. Surge protection devices, or SPD, are designed to protect electronic equipment from surges by diverting the excess voltage to ground. SPD are available in a variety of types, including whole-house surge protectors, plug-in surge protectors, and hardwired surge protectors. Whole-house surge protectors are installed at the main electrical panel and provide protection for all of the circuits in the house. Plug-in surge protectors are plugged into electrical outlets and provide protection for individual electronic devices. Hardwired surge protectors are installed directly into the electrical wiring and provide protection for specific circuits or equipment. The type of surge protection device that is appropriate for a particular application depends on the level of protection that is desired and the type of equipment that needs to be protected. It is also important to ensure that the surge protection device is properly installed and grounded. Proper surge protection can help to prevent damage to electronic equipment and extend its lifespan. Finally, regular maintenance and inspection of electrical systems are essential for ensuring their continued safety and reliability. Electrical systems should be inspected periodically by a qualified electrician to identify any potential problems. Maintenance tasks, such as tightening connections, replacing worn wiring, and testing circuit breakers, should be performed on a regular basis. Regular maintenance and inspection can help to prevent electrical fires, shocks, and other hazards. It can also help to extend the lifespan of electrical equipment and improve the overall efficiency of the electrical system. By following these safety precautions and guidelines, you can help to ensure that electrical systems are installed, maintained, and operated safely. Electricity is a powerful force, and it is important to treat it with respect. Always be aware of the potential hazards and take steps to protect yourself and others from harm. Remember, when in doubt, consult a qualified electrician.